Thank you. Yes, please.
Okay. Good afternoon, Chair Williamson, Vice Chairs, and members of the committee. My name is Susan Moen. I have been the Executive Director of the Jackson County Sexual Assault Response Team for 14 years, a trained confidential advocate for 23 years, and a rape survivor for 34 years. My experience in each of these roles has led me here today to speak in support of House Bill 2750. This bill, I truly believe, will bring about lasting and profoundly positive changes to individuals who have experienced victimization, to the first responders who interact with them, and to the community at large. It will increase the reporting rates for crimes of interpersonal violence, improve the experience that survivors have with the systems they must engage with to seek help, and improve the quality of investigations and the outcomes of cases involving victims who have experienced trauma. It will do this by directly addressing problems that have made combating domestic and sexual violence in Oregon so difficult. Extremely low reporting rates, high numbers of victims dropping out of the legal system if they do initially report, and low prosecution and conviction rates. This bill will help change this current reality by training first responders how to interact with victims in a trauma-informed way that creates connection and a sense of safety, so that victims are more likely to stay engaged in the criminal justice system and to seek the support services that can help them find a path to healing. It will educate responders about the effects of trauma on memory and behavior, so that signs of trauma are not interpreted as lack of credibility, and so that they can help survivors themselves understand how trauma can affect them. The fears that we hear survivors express are common and heartbreaking. I feel like I'm going crazy. Why can't I even remember what my attacker was wearing? If this was a big deal, I would have remembered every detail. They'll think I'm lying if I can't tell them everything that happened. With access to the standardized, evidence-based education about trauma that this bill will provide, the advocates, police, district attorneys, sexual assault nurses, and judges who come in contact with trauma victims will all be able to speak to the reality of trauma response, helping survivors understand the brain science behind what they are experiencing. This education will also help members of the criminal justice system use knowledge of how people respond to trauma to better investigate crimes of interpersonal violence and to enhance prosecutions. One of the strengths of House Bill 2750 is its emphasis on training multidisciplinary groups. Oregon has already done a good job of creating county-specific coordinated response teams and task forces that collaboratively address specific types of crime. House Bill 2750 will build on this achievement, strengthening and extending the work of our state's existing teams, ensuring that every responder a survivor connects with uses the same trauma-informed knowledge and best practices. Before I end, I would like to give you an example of the positive change that trauma-informed training can bring to a community. The police department that I most frequently work with as an advocate, the Ashland Police Department, already has detectives trained in the neurobiology of trauma and trauma-informed interviewing techniques, the same techniques that this bill would promote to agencies across the state. When I prepare a survivor for an interview with an Ashland detective, my prep speech sounds like this. So, the detective looks like a big ex-football player, but I promise you he truly understands what it is like for you to walk into that room with him and talk about this. He's going to start off by saying, "Tell me what you're able to about what you experienced." And then you can tell him as much or as little as you can. Don't worry if it doesn't come out as a linear narrative, and don't worry if you say, "I can't remember" or "I don't know." He completely understands the effects that a traumatic event like this can have, and it's not going to make him not believe you. I also tell the survivor, this is going to be hard, but what I can tell you is that almost everyone I bring to him has come out afterwards and told me some version of, "That wasn't as bad as I thought, and I actually kind of feel better now." I am able to say these things to survivors who report to the Ashland Police because that is the experience they have with the detectives who have been trained in trauma-informed practices. And I very much look forward to the day when I can give that same prep talk to every single survivor, knowing that because of this bill, every detective, every district attorney, every sane nurse, and every advocate will be approaching that survivor with a comprehensive understanding of the complex effects of their experience and with the training to help minimize further trauma. Last May, when I checked in with a woman who had reported a rape to a police department that has not yet trained in trauma-informed practices, this is what she texted me back. The interview went horribly. I feel even more lost than I felt before. It felt like I was being blamed. I'm at a point where I am feeling very discouraged and I can hardly think about trying to heal. 2 months after this, a survivor who reported to the trained Ashland detective told me, "You know how scared I was to make this report. I've always been scared of cops, but he totally made me feel like he was there just for me and that he knew what it was like for me. It's totally changed the way I feel about cops." This second young woman's case has been referred for prosecution, and earlier this year, a friend of hers contacted me about reporting her own sexual assault, having been assured that she would be met with compassion and an understanding of her experience. There is a quote by Cheryl Richardson that really resonates with advocates. People start to heal the moment that they feel heard. House Bill 2750 will provide to first responders throughout Oregon the education and skills to truly understand the trauma of those that they serve, so that the act of hearing a trauma survivor's story will mark the beginning and not the end of our ability to help them heal. Thank you.
Thank you very much.